No one can deny how massive anime has become. Its popularity has grown year over year. Films are breaking records in theaters. Some 300 to 400 shows are produced every single year. And the market size has reached $21 billion in 2023. But all that success has developed a problem that many industry leaders can plainly see. One such individual is planning and producer Taro Maki. He's worked on Pat LaBerre, Millennium Actress, Tokyo Godfathers, In This Corner of the World. He claims that the anime industry is being overtaken by a salaryman type of mindset. They're becoming fearful of failure. They're developing a deduction system way of working that really focuses on safe projects, proven genres, and giving up any desire to try new things. But he's not just an old man yelling at the clouds. He has his own hopes for changing this tide and hopes to support creatives in the field. All this comes from a recent interview that he had with IT Media, ahead of the animation film festival that he's a part of that actually cultivates and nurtures creatives. He was asked, Japanese anime is said to have a strong demand and high production quality. From a global perspective, would you say the current situation is good? Hollywood's struggles and Disney's slumps are also frequently discussed. He responds, who knows? Some people might say things look good overall, and viewed at a macro level, that might be true. But personally, from a perspective of cultural industry, I don't think current anime investment in Japan aligns very well with that concept. Film and video productions require large amounts of money, and recovering that investment is extremely difficult. Yep. That's why a situation where companies mass produce, even if the content is thin, isn't sustainable and ultimately isn't good. A novel can be written by one person. Manga can be made by a small group and a small budget. So even if sales are low, as long as they have fans, they can continue to exist. But anime and film involves hundreds of people and costs a lot of money. So there's a constant difficulty. They must be commercial hits, or the business simply can't survive. And that's the big problem that the industry right now is facing. There's so many companies getting in on this. Anime is making a lot of money. They're seeing all these numbers. They're seeing those at $21 billion. All these companies are seeing dollar signs and they're rushing in to invest in it. But the problem is that there's producing so much stuff and thus there's too much being spread thin that how do you make that money back? Yes, one person drawing something, easy. A group making a manga, easy. It's a little small group. Even if they don't sell too much, they're still going to be successful. That's why we always say the idea of a lot of this stuff sort of being advertisements for source material. It's actually true. It's actually true in a lot of ways because it's so cheap to print that. And even if it fails, who cares? It's sitting on the shelf and it collects dust, but they lost a little bit of money. In the end, they're still surviving. Animation, when you're involving so many people, you're talking millions of dollars per episode that they're investing in. If they don't get that money back, the company falls. That's why you're seeing so many production studios and whatnot that are just popping up left and right, but they're quickly shutting down. They ask, we also often hear Japan doesn't have enough producers. Why do you think the industry ended up in that situation? He responds, there are many reasons, but one major factor is the salaryman mentality. Here's where it gets interesting stuff. Japan has many company employee producers, and the basic thinking here isn't adding points, but deducting points. In other words, avoiding failure is the top priority, and there's no mindset on taking risks to earn positive points. As a result, the industry gravitates only towards genres that have been proven successful, only towards safe products. Y'all wonder why there's tons of isekais every single season? You wonder why we have so many fantasy stories, so many kick from the hero party? Because they're proven successful. They get the numbers. Y'all watch my videos where I do the Japanese rankings every single season. What do you guys see at the top? It's always those same things. It's the escapism, isekais. It's all those stories about getting kicked from the hero party and getting revenge. People like that. They keep watching it. And thus they keep producing it because it's a safe bet. But it's interesting what he's saying here. The idea is the salaryman mentality. For those who don't know what the salaryman is, it's the guy that's basically the typical guy in the suit that goes to work in Japan. They're part of the cog. They put on their suit in the morning, they go in their job, they sit down at their desk, they type in the numbers, in most cases, work really late, they don't push back, they don't ask any questions, they don't say no, they go with the flow, and they go home, and they go to sleep, and they get up the next morning to do the same thing. It's the mindset of not stepping out of the bounds, always staying in line. And he's seeing that with producers. Now, typically with a producer, you want somebody that is a creative mind that has an idea. They have something they want to go towards. Not somebody that's just going to go, what's the popular manga right now? Adapt that. They don't think. They think, which one's popular? Press the button, get it done. It's already done. The creative vision's already there in that manga, so we don't have to worry about trying anything. Just go with the flow. Whatever's popular, go with the flow. It's never trying something new. And what he's talking about with the whole adding points versus deducting points is the mindset of not trying to succeed at something and thus get a little positive mark on your score. It's just the idea of avoiding deductions. You don't want the negative points. Don't get the negative points. That's all they're focusing on. They're not focusing on doing successful things. But in reality, you could never truly know how audiences will react. Even difficult or challenging works serves the purpose of cultivating the audience. In the past, many theaters had a culture where people would watch slightly complicated films, and that created room for experimentation. But now that those spaces have disappeared, the overall landscape feels like it's become a bit shallow. This is a sad statement that he has right here, and I sort of see what he means here. The idea is that back in the day, a lot of people would go out to these little mini theaters on a regular basis, and there would just be like the most creative stuff on the screen. Just all these different ideas that people were putting up on display, and people were just consuming it like crazy. And I sort of see the same thing he's seeing here with my own experiences. Back in the day, we had a lot of OVAs. I mean, 90s was big on OVAs. This regularly, what they would do is they would animate these crazy cool concepts, these original ideas, and they would go straight to OVA. They would go straight to video. And those videos were selling very, very well. Now, granted, back then, the 90s, especially for anime, is that they had a lot of money. Japan had a lot of money and they were spending like crazy. And so that was creating a lot of very unique and very creative concepts within OVAs. And that's something that's sort of lost, especially these days, because similar to many theaters, all these things are being lost into the past because what's replacing it? Streaming services, network television. Everybody's just consuming on their devices and it's all coming to one location that you subscribe to. And it's massive and it's over flooded to the point where you're just seeing a lot of the same things. Again, the things that come to the top, which again is the trending stuff, the stuff that's very safe, and all the other stuff that's creative is being washed out. A recent example for me was the whole situation with Apocalypse Hotel. That was an original work that was doing extremely creative stuff that I absolutely loved. But in that season, it just got drowned out by all the adaptations that everybody was excited for. He's seeing the same thing, just from a different perspective. He's then asked, in response to this trend, it seems the goal of the International Film Festival is to shake things up. Yeah, and for those who don't know, this is a film festival that he's actually a part of, that he's actually leading. Its whole goal is to kind of bring a bunch of creatives together, even internationally, bring people in, kind of have those creatives showcase what they're doing. It's all to kind of, work and network and get people's work out there and really kind of bring that creative spirit out. Well, even if we say that we want to shake things up, my main profession is still producing. Running a film festival isn't my main job, but I believe that providing a space for creators is essentially a role of producer. That's why I'm involved with running the festival. The film In This Corner of the World, which I produced, was director Katabuchi's third film, but his previous works had not been hits. Even so, it's necessary to continue to provide opportunities in situations like that. Even Miyazaki didn't have his big hit with his very first feature. In other words, the role of producer is not to rely solely on guaranteed, safe, sure hit material, but to create spaces for creative challenges. I wish that was the case. I honestly wish that was the case, but he makes a good point here. He makes a really good point here. Hayao Miyazaki didn't create a hit from the first get-go. It took time to build up into being who he is. And now everybody, whenever Hayao Miyazaki's name's on something, they're just foaming at the mouth, waiting for it to hit the screen. It's going to be the case for everybody. Give them an opportunity to build up. Give them that chance. Let their creative mind build. They're going to get there. Now, granted, the sad thing and the response to this really is you can't really just wait for everybody to produce something gold. You're going to end up having a line of thousands of people all wanting to get their chance to keep trying until they get it. But there's nothing to say you can't give them the avenue to try and not just focus on nothing but the big hits. Otherwise, you won't have Miyazaki. You won't have Katabuchi. You won't have Makoto Shinkai. You wouldn't have had Satoshi Kon. The interviewer says, that said, many people want reliably successful works. Films like Detective Conan or Doraemon, for example. He responds, of course, anyone would want to work on those sorts of safe bets, but I personally have pursued challenging projects, regardless of whether they would succeed or fail. That's not something to brag about, it's just my personality. So even with the film festival, I want to emphasize challenge. Yeah, and you kind of get that with his works. I mean, looking at the stuff that he works on, a lot of this stuff is really stuff that's out of the norm. Yes, he has things like Sword Art Online. He's going to have these things that he can get dragged into, but he's worked on a lot of really creative stuff, like In This Corner of the World, Pluto, Pat LeBur, Millennium Actress, Tokyo Godfathers, Satoshi Kon Works, that kind of stuff. This is a guy that does a lot of stuff. Shoot, Armitage 3 down here. That takes me back. That takes me back. By creating a film festival, I want to give writers and creators a place where they can feel encouraged to take one more step. For audiences, a film festival is a celebration, so I want them to enjoy the experience. But naturally, it's not the kind of place you want to screen Doraemon. The idea is to entertain the audience while also encouraging creator to take risks. That's how I envision the structure of the festival. Yeah, so it's like, yeah, everybody loves Doraemon. We'd love to have it there, but at the same time, what good is this? How is this going to encourage creativity if we're just going to do exactly what I said the industry is kind of falling apart for? For example, this time as well, we are doing a special feature focusing on specific artists, and I think this is very meaningful. We want to create a venue that shines more light on individual creators and their creative identities. Of course, we have no intention of denying major hits like Demon Slayer. But right now, nearly 90% of the industry is structured around adapting already successful manga or novels into anime, integrating them into the publisher-driven business model. In this setup, there's no room for new animation creators to grow. Ideally, 70% of works can be stable and safe, but the remaining 30% should be devoted to new challenges. Only with that balance can the industry be considered healthy. Yeah, this goes right back to that whole interview with the PA Works lead. I was talking about that with that video. His whole idea there was that we're so focused on, okay, what's the next big manga? Adapt that, adapt that, adapt that. There's no room for somebody with a creative mindset in the anime industry to kind of step forward and say, I want to create something beautiful. Now, a lot of you watching this might be questioning, what's the big deal there? If the story in the manga is great, then who cares? If the story in the light novel is great, who cares? That's perfectly fine. He's even saying that 70% of it's fine. Animation, manga, and light novel are vastly different mediums. A lot of what you can do with a manga is stuff that you can't do with a light novel. A lot of what you can do with a light novel you can't do with a manga. And the same goes for animation. A good example. When you do a light novel, you can have a lot of inner dialogue, but you can't really do that with an animated format because you can't really just have it stick there with somebody thinking about something for 5 minutes. You can write that. You can't animate that. You can, but as we've seen with things like Higehiro, it doesn't really work very well in certain situations when everybody's just staring at the main character and he's in a dialogue for 5 minutes after he just slammed his hands on the table. So if you take a really good creative and you stick them in front of a group of people to animate a work, you can do something that would never be done in manga or light novel. Taking full advantage of what the animation medium can do, rather than rely on what's already established with those other works, that's what I think the big key thing here is. Otherwise, it's going to become very stagnant and just adapting panels or adapting words. The rest of the interview gets in the idea of him bringing foreign films and creatives into this festival that he's doing, which I think is really fantastic. His mindset there is that we're so focused on exporting anime to other countries, which has been great, but we're not doing enough of bringing creatives from the outside into the anime industry and see what they're able to do. It's sort of the idea of, inspiring new concepts, new workflows and whatnot that he really wants to kind of cultivate with his creators. So it's really cool stuff. But yeah, that's pretty much the interview. Really some interesting insights into his perspective of the anime industry, what he's sort of seeing. Again, it's really easy to kind of get stuck in the mindset of old man yells at cloud, but yet really doesn't provide anything to help the industry itself. It looks like he himself is actively taking a part and trying to, nurture new creatives, give them a venue for being able to express their, talents and whatnot to everybody else. I think the most interesting thing from this interview that I'm going to keep in my back pocket, honestly, is the way that he describes the salaryman producer mindset. The idea of these individuals just get into that workspace and they're just turning out things without, really wanting to step outside the bounds. Keep in that system, be a cog in the system. Don't try new things. Don't take risks. Keep with the simple and the safe. And that's the unfortunate reality that I really see a lot of this stuff going, which does sort of fuel me in my desire to find those little gems. Finding that Apocalypse Hotel show. Find those shows that really break out from the norm, those original ideas that people are trying new things with. But I hope you guys found this interview informative. I really did enjoy reading through it. I do want to give a shout out to animecorner.me, specifically Nuani. They've been doing some really incredible journalism when it comes to the anime industry. A lot of the interviews that I end up finding is usually through them. This specific one I found to them. It's just very hard to find journalists in the anime industry that's not just focused on clickbait, really stupid concepts, political leaning and whatnot. They've been doing some very excellent work, and I really do hope that people support people like this, people that are really doing the effort and find this stuff. So yeah, definitely give them a shot. But anyways, that's it for this video. Hope you guys found it informative. If you did, hit the like button down below. If you like this content and you want to support Tom more, become a member. Until next time, y'all take care.